This lecture series is Arch's gift of education to the community. It is made possible by volunteers, including our lecturer today, and the members and donors who support our operations and staff. It is also supported this year by funding from Arch United of Greater Fort Wayne, the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne, and Indiana Humanities, and we're very grateful for that funding. You received a little piece of paper when you came in that invites you to invest in history for our future. That's Arch's theme, because that's what we do, and that's what our members and donors do. They invest in history for our future. That is what you do that supports this program and all that Arch and its historic preservation work contributes to community well-being in Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana. Historic preservation supports community well-being in so many different ways. It helps us with our sense of community identity and how we as individuals connect to it by knowing the stories of these beloved places that we either live in or work in or went to school at or drive past every day or shop at. And it helps us by triggering reinvestment in the built heritage of our community, which is a very efficient and effective way to do economic development and to help this place be vital economically and socially and civically for the long term. So we invite you, that's why we invite you to invest in history for our future. We are also eager to hear your reviews of this program and your ideas about what Arch could be doing to make an even bigger impact. So let's talk in person, we're all here together now, by phone or email. The little sheet of paper you got includes an email address you are welcome to use to contact me and let me know your responses to this program, your ideas for Arch, anything you want to say. I'm all ears. Really delighted to hear from you and really sincerely invite you to invest in history for our future. I am delighted today to introduce our speaker, Rob Stone, and before I cede the podium here, I'm going to tell you, on the table over there by the window, you will find this list. My name is already on it. It says, I want to know more, and it is a way that we all can tell Rob we would like to know more. I checked underneath, I want to know when your book comes out. There is also a place you can tell him, I want to know more about the history of my neighborhood, because he can help you learn how to do that. He would be glad to do that. So, good opportunities here on this sheet of paper. I'm putting my very own beloved orange pen by it so you can use that while you sign up. It's kind of a weird pen, so maybe nobody will walk off with it because everybody else will need it to sign up, okay? But my name's already on it. Feel free to add yours. It's going to be over here by the window. Now, Rob, it's all yours.
Oops. Where'd it go? Let's get rid of that. Hey. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So, how many people have ever seen this sign before? Yeah. This is what you would find if you were an Irish immigrant and you newly arrived in New York City with your family, or maybe you came first and your family was going to come after you. And you got all the way to America. You survived the travels from Ireland to America, and this is what you were welcomed with. So what are you going to do? Well, thankfully, about the time a lot of Irish were arriving to America, construction was happening all over the place on different canal projects, and one of them was the Wabash and Erie Canal that actually went through our city, which employed over 1,000 workers, the majority of which were Irish immigrants. So, how many people in the audience have Irish ancestry? Okay. Yeah. That was yesterday. You can't count it. So how many longtime residents here can trace your your Irish ancestry back to maybe the 1800s here in Fort Wayne. Okay,
Well, not in Fort Wayne, no.
okay. All right. So who were the Irish immigrants who settled in 19th century Fort Wayne? Let's talk about some prominent people. You recognize this guy right here?
Wayne.
Anthony Wayne, the son of an Irish immigrant. Our city is named after him. So that's kind of the most prominent Irish person. He was an actual citizen here, but we're named after him. And we got Samuel Hannah, the son of an Irish immigrant, who was one of the early pioneers of the area, came to Fort Wayne in 1819. He was the postmaster, he was a circuit court judge, he served on the board of the canal commissioners, he was in the state legislature, and he donated land for the first city hall at Barr and Berry Streets. And he was also a delegate to the Democratic National Convention in 1856. And we have Allen Hamilton, who actually was an Irish immigrant. He came to Fort Wayne in 1823 from Tyrone County, Ireland. He held all kinds of jobs, sheriff, postmaster, auditor, recorder, Indian agent. He founded a bank. But one of the cool things that I discovered in my research is his granddaughter, Alice Hamilton, was one of the founders of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. So you can thank the granddaughter of an Irish Fort Wayne resident for having a safer workplace in America. And another cool fact about her, and this is Women's History Month, she was the first female faculty at Harvard University. So I thought that was kind of cool. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, what you came to learn about here. We're going to talk about how this all began. So I was researching the Irish history of Fort Wayne, and I came across this article that some of you may have seen before. I think it's on the History Center website. And there's this one little paragraph that says, the section of the city immediately south of the Pinsey Shops became known as Irishtown. And that's what kind of sent me down a research rabbit hole. I don't know if you guys have ever had one of those, but yeah, so it kind of derailed my whole plan because I go, what? We have an Irish town here in Fort Wayne? So I went down to our favorite place to do research. Many of you probably have been down there, the Allen County Public Library's Genealogy Center, and I started digging. And what I discovered, let's see, let's go to here, is there's a ton of old city directories, the predecessor to the telephone book, basically, before there was a telephone. And it had basic information about the person, what their address was, and even what they did for a living, and sometimes even where they worked. So, I mean, it's some great information that can be found in these. And you can get to these on the Allen County Genealogy website. Just look for city directories. It's also on archive.org. But if you want to dig into your own neighborhood, just remember later on to sign up, and you can email me, and I'll email you, and we'll talk about how to get to these places. So these are what they look like. And the interesting thing about when you do this research is that in 1902, they changed the address numbering system. So for me, that was the biggest hurdle to begin with. It's like, I'm looking at all these old city directories, and they're saying, oh, it's at where's it at? 298 Calhoun Street. Well, 298 Calhoun Street now is 1626 Calhoun Street. So if you've got a Google map up and you're putting map pins on it, you've got to take into account that it's no longer 298 Calhoun Street. So that's the first thing that you might encounter when you're looking through your historic neighborhood. Another great resource out there, Sanborn maps. They're called the Sanborn Fire and Casualty Company maps. They basically were put out in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And what I picked for mine is the 1902 one, because that's when the address numbering changed. Let me see if I can find it here. And as you can see right there, it has both addresses. So it shows you the old numbering and the new numbering. So for my purposes of reconstructing my neighborhood, I was able to look at the old address and say, okay, where is that now? Well, that's at 1626, so I can put that on my Google map, and that gets me started. So then you basically, how I started out before, I looked for Irish surnames to start off with when my first pass on this. And I went through and I would look in the city directory, find the address, and then put it on a map pin. Then I started using census records to get more accurate information to verify that they were indeed born in Ireland. And what I found out was in Fort Wayne in 1880, out of the 50,000 something residents, 1,000 of them were born in Ireland. So they weren't just descendants of Irish people, they were born in Ireland. And the majority of them actually lived in the neighborhood that I rediscovered, because it was there before. As you can see, these are all Irish households, so it's pretty obvious where Irishtown neighborhood was, just from this data that I was able to. But if you can kind of see this right, actually this has a thing on it. Is it a laser? I don't know if it has a laser or not. Anyways, this is Fairfield Avenue right here. And then we've got the home of what's known as the home of Mattress neighborhood. So primarily up here around Bass Street and Fairfield over to probably about Harrison Street is what we're looking at here. But that's the primary area. And these are just the records of people who were born in Ireland. What I'm working on now is the people whose parents were born in Ireland, either their father, mother, or both. So this is definitely going to grow once I add that data to it. So one cool thing that came out of this is that the city of Fort Wayne decided to take an interest in the neighborhood. And remember this old Y from back when GE was around, and they would get off of work and they would come down this road and they would, go home for the day. So they had these two streets that formed a Y. You guys recognize that? It's at Taylor and Fairfield. Yeah. Well, the city came in and they said, we don't want to use these roads anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a park. So the city of Fort Wayne actually put a little plaza in there. Where you see it's kind of brown now, it's all grass now. This I took when they just completed it back in the spring of fall of last year. So that's some of the things that as we've come across this information and we've rediscovered this neighborhood, the city has taken notice, and they're doing things like this. That's all I have, so I want to open up to questions for you. If you want to sign up over here, we actually, I can answer more specifically, but if you have questions today, I'd be happy to open it up for questions.
Just went out to that Irishtown Park, and there's no signage in there that I did.
Not yet. I think that's still in the works. I think they'll make some kind of official announcement what's going on with that, but I don't know exactly what's going on, but maybe there will be, I would think.
Well, where it was like that, is that where Williams
Yeah.
goes off?
Williams and Masterson.
We've been watching that because, I live
Mhm.
in Williams Woodland neighborhood. And I doubt any Irish lived there because that was built later and
Mm-hmm.
was more or less a suburb. But I know it's just north of me there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's, we kept hearing it's gonna be a roundabout, it's gonna be a round, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's,
Well, I think the city will be making an official announcement of what's going on there. I can't really say what's going on, but,
I never
Oop.
heard. Do you have a lot of surnames that you can show us, like a list of?
That would be something through email that I would want to do. I just wanted to give you guys kind of an overview of my research and then take some questions. And then what I'd like to do is get kind of, if you want to sign up, I'll email you and then we can start it. And I'm not going to, this isn't free of charge. I'm not going to charge anything. And we can talk about your neighborhood, what surnames that you're interested in. And I'd be happy to help you with that.
What kind of businesses were that were perpetuated within the Irishtown community? Was there a
let me bring you a map here. Let's see. All right, let me zoom in on this a little bit. So this is the Irishtown neighborhood, the primary area. What I also did was I added stuff just north of that neighborhood, because up until about 1890, the Irish, when they went to church, which they were mostly Catholic, would walk up here to go to church, to the Catholic church up here.
St. Patrick's, is that?
No, this is before St. Patrick.
Before St. Patrick.
So I guess the Cathedral Immaculate, whatever the church was back in the day, we'd have to walk.
It was the cathedral.
Yeah, they'd have to
Oh,
walk
it was a
up.
cathedral? Okay.
So a lot of these businesses right here were Irish saloons, Irish inns, I've got an Irish barber here, and some of the Irish actually lived on Baker Street. So this is where they would go. So a lot of the Irish businesses were kind of concentrated here on South Calhoun, right before the railroad tracks there.
So, yeah, right.
So, okay, people who came over to work on the canal would have been working in the
30s.
1830s.
Yeah, this is. Yeah.
And so these are 1830s places?
No,
people
these
worked
are
or
actually,
later than
this is
that?
1880. This is to show, you know, they stayed basically.
Okay.
Yeah, they stayed basically.
After the canal was built,
Yeah,
they stayed.
there's a lot more information that I'm happy to answer, but I'm kind of trying to focus on how I reconstructed the neighborhood. But if you've got
Well, that's
questions.
a lot of good basic information, so no,
Yeah,
I
if-
share, curiosity about, so what were they doing? Were they,
Well, what they actually did is they came to Fort Wayne via canal construction. And then when they were done, what they found in Fort Wayne that they didn't find in New York City was, instead of, where's it at? Instead of this, Fort Wayne welcomed them. We had prominent Irish born or children of Irish people that were the founders of Fort Wayne. So when they came here, they didn't see these kind of signs. They were welcomed here. So many of them stayed, worked on the railroad, worked in industry, the old wagon works, different types of industry here, they stayed. And it's because we were welcoming to them. We didn't turn them away like they were turned away in other places.
What does the housing in that neighborhood look like, and is any of it still left?
There are some of it that's still left. If you look at the old Sanborn maps, you can actually see what it's constructed of. If it's pink on the map, it's brick, right, Krager? If it's yellow, I think it's wood frame. So you can kind of tell what they were made out of. So if you drive through the neighborhood, if it's an old brick house and you see it on the Sanborn map, it's probably that house. But a lot of them, if you look, what I'll do is if you email me, I'll share with you this map, and you can actually click on these map points and it'll tell you who lived in that house. So there was many times you will see, let me find one that has a lot of people. You'll have like 8 or 10 people living in the house. It's because it was like a boarding house. So in the Irishtown neighborhood, there was multiple families that lived in a lot of these houses. They were working class, blue collar kind of people.
I know that the same story was in LaGrow, Indiana, in Wabash.
Mhm.
LaGrow was an Irish community.
Yes.
The Irish came in, there's a St. Patrick's there. Did you note any of that movement back and forth across Indiana with the canal? Have you seen any?
I personally read about it. It's not going to be in my. I'm actually doing 2 books. I felt like Irishtown needed its own book after doing my research, so it's going to be mentioned in the overall Fort Wayne Irish history book, but Irishtown's going to get its own book, and it's going to be all stories from the old Irishtown neighborhood. But that's kind of what my focus is. I do know about Lagro, and I think there's some old canal stuff in Delphi. Yeah.
Did you say that the census data was that from 1900
That's 1880.
Oh, 1880.
1880.
Was that, the numbers there, I know you said that was people who were born, census of people who were born in Ireland.
Mhm.
Was there more or heavier, immigration from Ireland earlier than that and sort of tapered off a little bit, or?
A lot of these people been in the neighborhood for years. I mean, if you go to the census data, you see they were born in like the 1820s, 1830s in Ireland, and a lot of them are senior citizens, and they're living in the Irishtown neighborhood. So they've been here for decades, a lot of them.
My family came from Ireland approximately 1851, my great-grandfather came, and he built a home, he bought property in 1931 Fairfield. And he built, they lived on Prince Street, first of all.
Okay, that was all Irish back in the day.
He was first wife and had 2 children in England. They got married in England. And then she passed away very shortly after they got here. And then he met another Irish gal, her name was Catherine Martin. She's in there as Catherine Hogan.
What are the cross streets of that house?
That would be Taylor and Fairfield, where the parkway is. That was his property.
All right, let me take a look here.
He bought that property in 1854 and started building, he built 2 duplexes.
Okay.
One on Prince Street and one on Fairfield. And they owned that property, he left it to his son.
What was the surname?
Hogan, H-O-G-N, they're right up there at the top.
Oh, you see him, okay.
Patrick was my great-grandfather's son.
Okay.
And Timothy was his other brother, and then he had a brother John that lived on Fairfield.
That's awesome. I mean, for me personally, meeting someone who's a descendant of one of these,
Got some information I'll give you.
that's outstanding. Thank you for that. I had,
Try to think whether there's a Lynch that nearby, and the Lynch's, Logan's, Martin's, Ahern's, they're all in that general area.
mhm.
Okay, and they mostly work for the railroad.
Okay, yeah.
Timothy had a saloon.
Yeah, if you look in the old city directories, the majority of these people work for the railroad.
But the majority work for the railroad.
Mhm.
And their sons went to work for the railroad. My great-grandmother was a housemaid after her husband died.
Mhm.
In 1874, she was left with 3 children,
Mhm.
no money, and he had left in his will that she was to put a monument on his gravesite in a Catholic cemetery, which was gonna cost her somewhere in the range of $300.
Wow.
No money. She went to work in the Hannah home for Hannah.
Mhm.
But he'd already, when I did my research, he had already passed away when his daughter was living in his
Mhm.
home. And that's who she went to work for, as a maid to pay for all these things.
All right.
And
I had-
by the way, most of the Irish men that came over,
Mhm.
as I researched, I found that they like to have wives that were 15 to 18, 20 years younger than them.
I've got no comment about that.
40 years old, and we're finding these, my great-grandmother came from Ireland in, right around 1900. Married my grandfather and had their first child, and she passed away, and she was 19 years younger than my grandfather.
Oh. Had the lady right back there.
My question was gonna be pertaining to whether or not you noticed a trend in occupations. It sounds like from what this gentleman said, that after the canal work, a lot of folks went to the railroad.
Railroad,
Any other trends as to who were employed the Irish at that time?
it's really all the industry, anything blue collar, that was what the Irish, they were hard workers. I mean, they built the canal, they built the railroad, so these were hardworking people that were ready to do, manufacturing type work and things like that.
Hi, Lionel Lynch. My great-great-grandmother, Ann Martin, is Catherine Martin's sister.
Okay,
They came about 1856. They lived down there. You didn't have this, you have dots where my Lynch's on the other side of Melita, but you
Okay.
don't have names because
they might be descendants of
they were
Irish.
here in 1856 and
Let's see, over here.
right there where that empty space is,
Oh, okay.
Welland. That's where my great-great-great-grandfather Thomas Lynch bought or built a house in 1856.
Okay. Make sure that you email me. I would like to have further conversations with you about it.
So the people that came over to work the canal were predominantly men. When did women start coming over?
Well, they usually sent for them once they've established some type of income here. I mean, sometimes the women did come over, and unfortunately, they, you know, because of the xenophobia against the Irish, a lot of times they end up in what were called, I think they were called almshouses or poorhouses, basically kind of sanitarium kind of things where they would send them to live where they weren't allowed to live in society anymore. So it was really hard on the Irish woman that didn't have, you know, the skills, or, you know, because they came over, a lot of them were unskilled. They were farmers, or all they ever wanted to be was a housewife. You know, they didn't have the skill set to be in an industrialized nation like the United States.
Have you had an opportunity to share this information with someone who is living in Fort Wayne and perhaps didn't know that their family was here that long ago in Irishtown?
Not yet, but I'm starting to find some people here today, and that's awesome. Because a lot of this is, you know, as an ethno-historian, you read stories and you find data, and it's not unlike being an ethnographer or, you know, cultural anthropologist, where you get to sit down with the people and actually be a participant observer. In this situation, you know, you're looking through the lens of history. So it's great to kind of to meet some people today that can tell me more, you know, stories beyond the books and information that I've read. Anybody else?
There's old cathedral Catholic burial records going back to the 1830s online, and you see dozens of and these were just the ones where the priest had come to the funeral or whatever, and unknown Hibernian. Hibernian being was that the Greek name?
It's an ancient order,
Yeah.
fraternal order.
They identified them as unknown Hibernian, just dozens, from working on the canal, didn't have any records of their.
It was rough work. I mean, I have a couple pickaxes from the 1800s that I was gonna bring, but it was cold outside, and I decided not to bring them today. But if you hold one of those things, I mean, at first it's not super heavy. Can you imagine swinging one of those things, breaking through the ground, and then shoveling dirt? They didn't have heavy machinery back then, so it was back-breaking work.
And they buried them right where they
Yeah.
fell, right there.
Actually, I should ask that question. So that they bury at the Catholic cemetery and
What's that?
Cemetery was first.
If you go to the Catholic cemetery in Fort Wayne, my grandparents, great-grandparents are buried on a site that is referred to as Irish Hill in the Catholic cemetery.
Oh, wow.
And you will find,
Is that the one on Lake, or is that the one on Lake? Okay.
you'll find that what I found there, I was standing there one day, my kids get a big kick out of it, where's Grandpa? Well, he was out in the cemetery today for 2 or 3 hours, and I was standing next to my great-grandparents, I was taking pictures of everything, and I turned around and, what's that over there, about 3 lanes over, I could see a big monument statue that said Hogan.
Oh, wow.
That's where I found my great-uncle Timothy. And then close to that was Patrick's family.
Mhm.
And as you walk through, you find all these names, you see them. And there was Harry Hogan, who was the president of the Dying Rain, who was the relative. And he was kind
The Catholic cemetery, it's over at Lake, right before you get to Coliseum.
but if you're looking for Irish relatives, you will find them in the Catholic cemetery.
Yeah.
You just walk out, you've got a name,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a date, and you go in the office, they will list you and tell you right where they're at, you can drive out and find a lot of that stuff. It's very interesting.
The library has on their website a genealogy center.
Mm-hmm.
You can search by name for who's buried in Catholic cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find what plot they're in.
1891, 92? Yeah, right around 1890. Actually, the first parish priest there died before the construction was done. So that's kind of interesting. He never got to see the completion of it.
But when you asked about where the Irish came from,
Mhm.
the reason there was a lot of them here in the 1820s, 1830s that worked on the canal. But then the railroads came and kind of did away with the canal.
Mhm.
And the Irish that came here, my grandparents, her great-grandparents, came early 1850s because of the potato famine.
Mhm.
And because of the English just basically drove the Irish out of Ireland.
Mhm.
And they went to Australia and they came to America. And that's where,
And Mexico, too. Did you know that? There were Irish colonies in Mexico, or Irish or groups of people in Mexico as well.
I was talking to my friend here, trying to figure out what other businesses would have been in the area. General Electric in Fort Wayne started in 1881.
Mhm.
With the numerous hotels that were downtown, you'd be surprised at the lot of women who were working in the hotels,
Mhm.
in various capacities.
Yeah, there was like what was it, the Wayne Knitting, or there was like, there was like the different mills, the wagon works over, that was actually in Irishtown. So there was a lot of industry.
The Catholic cemetery today, that's actually the third Catholic
Is
cemetery. The first one was in the cathedral, where the cathedral parking lot is now. And then the second one is out where Essex, near Essex.
Okay.
And so that was on the old map, it's designated Catholic cemetery.
Is that the one where they were doing work?
And they,
They
yeah,
found,
they
they
didn't
found,
move
they
these
found some
people.
graves
Yeah.
recently when they were doing electric work.
It's expensive and difficult to move the bodies, so there's people lost there.
Now, Fort Wayne, in its infancy, wasn't all, progress and good people. One of the more interesting things I found out is if you look here, let's see, where's it at? Mike's Car Wash. See where Mike's Car Wash is?
Oh, yeah.
There used to be a railroad depot right here, and there used to be a street called Railroad Street. And across the street from the railroad in the late 1860s was a saloon called the Carey and Knight Saloon that was actually taken over by a fellow named Ed Ryan, who was an Irish gangster. And he and his gang would actually prey on the travelers as they would come to the train station. They would pickpocket them, and they had a system that if someone had already been pickpocketed, they used chalk to mark the person on their pant leg or on their coat on the back, so the next guy didn't try to pickpocket someone who'd already been pickpocketed. So that was going on. They had all kinds of gambling operations. Faro was really big back in the day. They ran Keno games, which is like a lottery kind of thing. There were brothels. Actually, the majority of the brothels were up where Headwaters Park is now. But yeah, there was an underworld. And actually, the last person that was publicly executed in Allen County in the courthouse square was, what's his name? Sam McDonald, 1883, and he was an axe murderer. He murdered a blacksmith, I believe. So,
Cigars in the basement of the history center.
yeah.
Yes, that's where I
Yep.
read that, yeah.
So, Irish, just like any other culture, didn't have all good people. They had some, colorful characters, but it makes for interesting history. So, let's see.
Is there any particular county where a lot of the Fort Wayne Irish came from? that I believe?
Not particularly. I mean, they came from all over. Limerick, Cork, everywhere. I think Cork usually, is the bigger one.
you know why they picked that area to start moving into, why the Irish picked, the Irish neighborhood?
I don't know for sure, but it was close enough to downtown where their church was.
Work for the railroad, they could walk.
Yeah, they could walk to work. They could walk to work to the railroad or whatever industry that they worked in. And that's the reason why actually St. Patrick's was actually built, because it became such a big neighborhood of Irish Catholics that they needed their own their own church, so that's when that was built. They actually started off with a school, a Catholic school that was in an old store, I think. It was like an old grocery store or something. And so they started educating the kids, and then eventually they built the church.
And I'm not sure the year that the state of Indiana started doing this, or requiring this, that you cannot move a gravesite unless there is a family member alive to allow it. And thus we have in McCulloch Park still, from one of the other earlier cemeteries, the first one in Fort Wayne, we still have, 3 graves in there.
It's a lot more than
So
three.
for that cemetery to move 3 times means that there were still allowing relatives alive to agree to go moving it. I'm not sure if it started after 1900, when that came around or when.
What cemetery did they move the people to?
When
Very
the
end.
cemetery on, Broadway was the first city cemetery,
Yeah.
they
Where did they move?
moved those, and that's when Lindenwood Cemetery was created. So everybody who had been in the downtown cemetery there, were all moved, except for 3, over to Lindenwood.
Do we have any other questions?
Can you tell us any more about these 2 books that you mentioned?
The first book is kind of an overview of the Irish history of Fort Wayne, starting in the early 1800s, and then going through like 1900, and just kind of, it's an overview of the Irish history of Fort Wayne.
Is that available now?
No, it's going to be coming out next year, actually. But the other book's going to come out before that, and that's it's called Irishtown: Stories from an Immigrant Neighborhood, and that's kind of where I pulled the information from the one book and kind of did kind of a focus on Irishtown and a lot of the stories that I discovered about the people and their lives. That kind of.
Who's writing the second book? Who's writing the first book?
I'm writing both. Yeah.
Our family was land grant, we were Irish people who came in the 1830s. And we're, 2 generations are still around, but I saw my grandmother's house out in that.
That's the name, that's about that too, Connie.
Yeah. Yeah, you got her late.
Williams, I'm Williams,
Right.
Oops,
yeah,
for-
he was land grant in Perry Township, and he died, and then when our great-great-grandfather died, he had all these kids, and an 18-year-old wife, and they all ended up in that area. Oh, that's Irish.
Yeah, if you want access to this map, just put your email address on the list, and I will email you a link to this.
So you claim the idea that this is Irishtown. I mean, I've never heard of these neighborhoods in Fort Wayne referred to as an ethnicity.
I actually didn't create that. That's just something I discovered through research when I was researching the book on the Irish history of Fort Wayne. There's also a French town. I mean, there were different ethnic neighborhoods. Like somebody, yeah.
Question about Irish pubs.
Mhm.
When I visited Ireland, one of the coolest things that I saw was like an Irish pub who would just come, bring their instrument, and start playing Irish songs. In your research, did you come across any establishments like that, or any kind of evidence of them bringing that music and that culture?
No, unfortunately, all I really get, or I've gotten so far, is just, it was a saloon owned by people born in Ireland. There might be other information out there in newspaper articles, but if you start researching newspaper articles, it's a vast rabbit hole that you can go down. I mean, it's just, and they sensationalize so much stuff in the 19th century. I mean, they would just, because they were trying to sell newspapers, so they would just exaggerate. So you don't know what's real and what's not. But that's why I kind of separated the second book out, because it's more that kind of stuff. So it's not really, I don't know if it's true or not, a lot of these stories, but they're interesting and they're entertaining. So. Anybody else?
Ron, about the baseball teams.
Oh, one of the cool things, as you know, in the spring and summer in Fort Wayne, softball is a huge thing. There's all kinds of softball leagues. Some of you may be members of softball leagues. Well, back in the late 1800s, it was all about baseball. So it's the same kind of deal, but it was kind of neighborhood oriented, where you'd have one neighborhood baseball team play against another neighborhood baseball team. You had the Fort Wayne Irishtowns, the Fort Wayne Shamrocks against, these other teams that are from around the area. And Alan Hamilton actually, supposedly, I've heard two different stories about this, donated the land for the first baseball park for the Fort Wayne Kikiangas, is what they're called? The first baseball team, that was the first professional baseball team in there. But I've heard that, yes, that's true, and I've heard, yes, no, it's not true, so. But it's really cool because we're still doing that today. We're not playing baseball per se, but we're playing softball, so the tradition is still being carried on. Anybody else?
So let's say thank you to Rob. Let me remind all of you, I think the line might be rather long, but the orange pen is awaiting you over there on the list to sign up to get access to Rob and his information. You all have your little sheets of paper. You are cordially invited to send in your reviews and your comments and your ideas for new great things Arch can do, and to invest in history for our future. So I hope you have enjoyed this gift of education to the community from Arch today on our 2023 Fun and Free Lecture Series. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a really good program, and you all have participated in it and helped to make it so. Karen?
Just so we have people at the future lectures, can you please tell them what they are?
We have 2 more lectures on our series. Thank you, Karen, keeping me on track here. The 3rd Saturday of April, we will have a lecture by architect Dodd Catman on mid-century modern in Fort Wayne. On the 3rd Saturday of May, Karen Richards will be doing a program on historic hotels of downtown Fort Wayne. There were some really cool ones.
Are they here?
And they will all be right here, and this is turning out to be a lovely venue for them, so we will make them get more chairs if necessary.
When you say you cover northeast Indiana, what area?
It's the 10 counties in the corner. We really do. Arch started almost 50 years ago, based in Fort Wayne and Allen County, but over time, we've started serving, we do historic preservation work for, nominations and history work and research and stuff for people in the outlying counties. We give Archie Awards in the outlying counties. We partner with Indiana Landmarks doing advocacy in those counties, so we decided we'll say that's part of our service area.
So you look at historic barns?
Yes. Barns can also be put on the National Register of Historic Places. And the state has a special program recognizing family farms of 100 years and older. So we've referred people to that program before. So there's all sorts of reasons why rural properties are every bit as meaningful for historic preservationists as urban and suburban properties. Okay. Like I said, you have my email address. You know where Arch is, a block away. We could all walk over there if we wanted to, but it's cold out, so I would drive personally. Sign your name, talk to Rob, talk to each other. Thank you all for coming, especially the people who have the information. Don't fail to make connections with Rob, because that will really help his research.